The late afternoon sun filtered through the blinds in a soft golden haze as I stood frozen in the doorway of my son Ethan's bedroom. My name is Alex Thompson, a firefighter with the Chicago Fire Department, and at that moment, every instinct I had as a protective single dad was screaming. Ethan, my bright-eyed 6-year-old, was perched on his windowsill, chatting animatedly with someone he called Mr. George. I had always assumed Mr. George was just an imaginary friend, a coping mechanism for the pain of his mother walking out on us 8 months earlier. But today, something felt different. Ethan's voice carried that earnest, detailed tone he used when describing real events: dinosaurs, baseball cards, stories about a garden filled with tomatoes, and a tabby cat named Mittens. I crept closer, heart pounding, and peered through the gap in his curtains. Across the narrow alley separating our modest suburban homes in Oak Park, Illinois, stood an elderly man in the window of the house with the white shutters. He had silver hair, wire-rimmed glasses, and a gentle smile as he nodded along to Ethan's words. He was real. Mr. George was absolutely real. My stomach dropped. For months, Ethan had been sharing his deepest thoughts with this stranger. How he missed his mom, how he worried about me coming home safe from fires, how sometimes he felt alone even when I was right downstairs. And I had missed it all, buried under 24-hour shifts, the ache of abandonment, and the endless cycle of trying to be enough for him. I remember the day Janice left as clearly as if it happened yesterday. She taped a note to the fridge. I need to find myself. Don't look for me. Ethan deserves better. Just like that, our life shattered. Ethan stopped asking about her after a few months, but the quiet acceptance in his eyes haunted me. Kids shouldn't have to grow up that fast. That evening, after tucking Ethan in and promising we'd talk more tomorrow, I sat at the kitchen table with a cold cup of coffee, replaying every conversation he'd had with Mr. George. The details were too consistent. Mr. George's tales of coaching Little League decades ago, his late wife Margaret's love for baking pies, the way he described feeling lonely after his family moved to Florida. This wasn't imagination. This was a real man engaging with my vulnerable child through an open window. The next morning, I confronted Ethan gently over breakfast. Buddy, tell me more about Mr. George. Does he live in the house next door? Ethan's face lit up at first, then clouded with confusion when I explained strangers could be dangerous. But he's not a stranger, Dad. He's my friend. He waves every morning and listens when I'm sad. His words broke something in me. I had been so focused on surviving, rushing to shifts, relying on our neighbor Mrs. Patel for childcare, that I hadn't noticed Ethan forging his own emotional lifeline. Protective instincts surged. What if this man had bad intentions? As a firefighter, I'd seen too many tragedies where trust was misplaced. That afternoon, after my shift, I stood at Ethan's window and finally made eye contact with Mr. George Ellis. He raised a hand in a hesitant wave, his expression open and kind, but I felt only suspicion. We need to talk, I called across the space, my voice tighter than intended. 5 minutes later, I was on his porch, pulse racing. Mr. Ellis opened the door before I knocked. Up close, he looked about 78, with soft grandfatherly features, a neatly pressed cardigan, and a tabby cat weaving between his legs. You must be Ethan's father, he said warmly. I'm George Ellis. I've been hoping we'd meet. Inside, his home smelled of old books and faint lemon polish, shelves lined with family photos, a comfortable armchair by the window, and no signs of anything sinister. Still, I stayed guarded. We sat in his living room, and he explained how it started. For months ago, He heard Ethan crying by the window after a tough day processing his mom's departure. Mr. Ellis waved. Ethan waved back. And simple hellos turned into daily chats. I was a third-grade teacher for 35 years, he shared quietly. Lost my wife 5 years ago. No kids of our own. When Ethan started talking, it gave me purpose again. His voice cracked slightly, revealing raw loneliness. I pressed him hard, background checks in my mind, legal concerns about unsupervised contact with a minor. Mr. Ellis understood completely, offering to share his ID, references from former colleagues, even suggesting I verify everything. Your son's safety comes first, he said sincerely. I would never hurt him. Something in his eyes, genuine care without defensiveness, began chipping at my walls. But trust doesn't come easy after betrayal. That night, Ethan sensed my unease. Dad. Mr. George is nice. He helps with my math by holding up the paper to the window. I promised to figure it out, but inside, turmoil brewed. Was I overprotecting? Or rightfully cautious? The slow dread built as I realized how deeply Ethan had bonded with this man I didn't know. The tension hung thick in the air the next evening as Ethan and I walked across the yard to Mr. Ellis's house for the trial dinner he had suggested. Ethan bounced with excitement, clutching a drawing he'd made of Mr. George's cat. I felt the weight of responsibility pressing on my shoulders. Every father's nightmare scenario played in my head. But so did the image of Ethan's tearful face when I had asked him to stop talking to his friend. Mr. Ellis greeted us at the door with a warm smile that made him seem younger, wearing a crisp shirt and the scent of simmering spaghetti sauce wafting from the kitchen. Ethan, it's wonderful to meet you face to face, he said, crouching carefully to Ethan's level. Ethan hid behind my leg at first, shy in this new reality. But Mr. Ellis's gentle humor, I'm a bit nervous too. You know, coaxed him out. Soon, Ethan was petting Mittens, giggling as the cat purred loudly. Dinner revealed layers I hadn't anticipated. Mr. Ellis had set the table thoughtfully, fresh flowers, his best dishes, and listened to Ethan's rambling school stories with genuine interest, asking questions that showed he remembered details from their window talks. When Ethan begged for the big fish story, Mr. Ellis launched into a humorous tale from his childhood fishing trips, complete with exaggerated gestures that had us both laughing. Humor cut through the awkwardness, lightening the mood in unexpected ways. Over dessert, Mr. Ellis opened up more about his life. 35 years teaching, the joy of watching kids grow, the emptiness after losing Margaret. Ethan reminded me what connection feels like, he admitted softly, eyes misty. I shared my own struggles, the fire station calls that left me drained, the guilt of not being enough after Janice left. For the first time, I felt seen, not judged. Watching their interaction, the central conflict softened. Mr. Ellis wasn't taking advantage. He was filling a void for both of us. Ethan glowed, finally having an elder figure who celebrated his small wins. As we left that night, Ethan hugged Mr. Ellis tightly. You're my real friend now, he whispered. I nodded agreement, though caution lingered. This is a start, I told Mr. Ellis. But Ethan's well-being is everything. In the weeks that followed, Mr. Ellis became woven into our routine. Morning waves turned into brief check-ins. On my off days, we'd share coffee while Ethan played, discussing parenting challenges. Mr. Ellis offered wise, experience-based advice, how to handle Ethan's nightmares about abandonment, ways to reassure him I wasn't leaving. His teacher background shone when helping with homework via window or in person. One evening, after a brutal warehouse fire shift that claimed a life, I came home shattered. Mr. Ellis noticed my truck and knocked softly with fresh muffins. We sat in my kitchen as I unloaded the guilt and helplessness. He listened without platitudes, sharing his own losses. The work you do saves lives. Alex. That's legacy for Ethan. His words eased the isolation, building trust brick by brick. Humor emerged too, Ethan's silly jokes about Mr. George's old man stories making us chuckle. Mitten's antics during visits. Yet tension simmered beneath, occasional doubts about boundaries. Legal worries about formalizing contact. Mr. Ellis respected every limit, never pushing. By the end of the first month, family dinners became regular. Ethan thrived, more confident at school, less anxious. I began seeing Mr. Ellis as a mentor, his patience healing my self-doubt. The slow build of emotional intimacy felt profound. Yet I wondered, could this last? 3 months in, Mr. Ellis's heart attack shattered the fragile peace we had built. I was at the station when Ethan's panicked call came through Mrs. Patel. Daddy. Mr. George fell in the garden. He won't wake up. Panic surged as I raced home, sirens blurring in my mind. The ambulance lights flashed against our quiet street. Ethan sobbing in Mrs. Patel's arms. At the hospital, we waited endlessly. Ethan refused to leave, gripping my hand. When the doctor emerged stable, but needs surgery and recovery, relief flooded us both. Mr. Ellis had become family without us realizing it fully. Seeing him frail in the hospital bed, Ethan whispered encouragements, bringing drawings and cat updates. Recovery was slow. Mr. Ellis moved to rehab, where we visited daily. Ethan read to him, shared soccer stories. I coordinated help, arranging home health aides later. During quiet moments, Mr. Ellis reflected, I never thought I'd have family again at this age. His vulnerability deepened our bond, exposing psychological layers, his fear of burdening us, my guilt over not noticing his declining health sooner. Back home, we adapted. Ethan stayed with us temporarily with Mittens, visits bridging the gap. Mr. Ellis's return marked a new chapter. Morning checks, shared meals, garden work together. Multi-generational rhythms formed, Ethan chasing fireflies while we chatted on the porch. Humor persisted in Ethan's growing wit, lightning-heavy talks about aging and loss. Challenges arose, Ethan's school outbursts from unresolved abandonment fears. My overwhelming shifts. Mr. Ellis mediated with insight, reminding me I was enough. One tough night after another tragic call. His stories of resilience helped me process trauma. The bond strengthened through milestones. Ethan's soccer games where Mr. Ellis cheered enthusiastically, earning honorary grandpa status from other parents. Psychological healing unfolded. Ethan processed his mom's departure better. Understanding adult choices aren't his fault. I confronted my resentment toward Janice, finding forgiveness through Mr. Ellis's perspective. Yet Mal Thwan lingered, worries about Mr. Ellis's health. My protectiveness clashing with Ethan's independence. Explosive moments came during arguments over boundaries, but resolved with honest talks, building deeper trust. Chosen family dynamics emerged, proving love transcends blood. Years unfolded in quiet beauty. Ethan turned 8, celebrating in Mr. Ellis's backyard with friends, teammates, and our growing circle, including Mr. Ellis's nephew from Florida. Watching Ethan blow out candles, surrounded by love, filled me with awe at how far we'd come from that first shocking discovery. Mr. Ellis's wisdom guided us, teaching Ethan emotional intelligence, advising me on single parenting pitfalls. Humor wove through, Ethan's teenage eye rolls at grandpa stories, yet secret admiration. Mr. Ellis helped with tech. Ethan read aloud as eyesight faded slightly. A pivotal afternoon. Ethan, now teen, tearfully shared Mr. Ellis's mortality talk. He said loving me was his greatest joy, and that love stays. We cried together, confronting loss's inevitability. Mr. Ellis faced aging gracefully, prioritizing legacy. The party for Mr. Ellis, celebrating his role in our lives, featured letters from former students, revealing his lifelong impact on children. Ethan spoke movingly. You waved when I was alone, changing everything. Family is who shows up. Emotions peaked. Hugs and tears affirming bonds. Health declined gradually, slower steps. More rest, but mind sharp. Ethan helped practically, deepening respect. My promotion to captain felt shared victory. Speech honoring chosen family. Reflections built. Kindness multiplies. Connections heal wounds. Mr. Ellis's example questioned societal isolation. Why do we overlook neighbors' loneliness? Henry, wait. Mr. Ellis lived 3 more years. Witnessing Ethan's high school graduation. First job. A college acceptance to study education. At 90, he passed peacefully. The funeral packed with touched lives, students, neighbors, us. Ethan eulogized. Friendships start with a wave. Family is choice and love. I'll pass it on as a teacher. Packing mementos at his house. Ethan stood at the window where it began. That wave made me feel seen. We collected books, photos, tangible proof of our unlikely family. The journey taught profound lessons, from suspicion to trust, abandonment scars to healing through connection. One act of kindness bridged generations, healed hearts, created legacy. As we locked the door, Ethan smiled. Do you think he knew one wave would lead to all this? I replied. He saw a boy needing a friend and chose to be it. This leaves the lingering question. In our busy lives, who might be waving across the divide, waiting for us to wave back? What unexpected bonds could transform loneliness into chosen family if we only dared to connect? The moral echoes. Kindness costs little but multiplies endlessly. Family is built through presence, not just blood.